get started. First, I want to say thank you for being here at the conference. Thank you for being here for this conversation. And I appreciate you spending your time and paying attention. Everything comes with a cost, and I appreciate your investment. I'm Father Louis Powell. I am the pastor at St. Michael's Church here in San Clemente. Give you a little brief on San Clemente and our beautiful, wonderful weather. This workshop here today that I'm leading is about leadership. I'm going to talk about leadership, in particular what it means for Christians to be leaders at home and at work and at church. And I have a brief description of that. Let me read this. Christian leaders get the right things done well through the cooperative coordination with others for the long-term benefit of each and all. They exhibit honorable qualities worth emulating, like generous and mature wisdom, expressed with courageous, decisive action, appropriate prioritization, and clear communication. Do that and you'll be fine. Let me start with a question, and I always hear this question in conversations about leaders, and that is, are leaders born or are they made? And the answer is yes, they are. Some people act out the roles of leader instinctively. They have a personality to be leaders, and other people don't. But both kinds of people lead better when they are taught how to lead better. And with the question of, what about you? Are you a leader? Do you have those instincts? Doesn't matter. I want to consider first what Jesus said right before he ascended into heaven. On a hill outside of Jerusalem, before he ascended into heaven, he said, "All authority has been given to me on heaven and on earth." Leadership is the acting out of authority, and all authority is Jesus' authority, which if we can do well or we can do poorly. And then Jesus said, "Therefore go. Therefore go. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. And lo, I'm with you always, even to the ends of the age." This is famously known as the Great Commission. A commission is when you are given a mission, when you are sent. You're given instruction, a command, or assigned a duty. Baptize, disciple, teach. These are all things of leadership. It seems clear to me that all of you, therefore, have been commissioned to lead. I believe that you have a responsibility to change the world where you are. I want you to think about this in the beginning commission that God gave in the garden. Genesis 1, it says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Then God blessed them and said to them, 'Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. Be fruitful, subdue the earth, and have dominion.'" All of these things are about leadership. All of these things are appropriate to God's people. That's you. Think about this. On the night he was betrayed, Jesus prayed. John 17 is his prayer. And in that prayer he says, I do not pray that you should take them out of the world, but that you should keep them from the evil one. They are not of the world, just as I am not of the world. Sanctify them by your truth. Your word is truth. As you sent me into the world, I also have sent them into the world. Over and over again, you're commissioned to go. You've been sent. I believe you have a responsibility to change the world where you are. Now, back to the question of, are you a leader? You have been created in God's image, and you have been commissioned to go. In Luke 12, it says, everyone to whom much is given, from him much will be required. There is an idea in the world I've been long familiar with, and it goes under the heading of noblesse oblige. That your nobility comes with obligations. Are you a leader? Yes, you are. And you can trust that God will make you fit for the purpose that He has created you. Even if you are not instinctively a leader, you are born again, you are a new creation, your old man is dead and buried in baptism, and you have been raised to new life. You are being transformed into a better leader. Now, I want to talk to an idea that I have, that I believe, and that is that being a leader and being a mature Christian are the same thing, or they're about the same thing. If they're not identical, they are very similar. What I want to do is I want to list out some qualities and traits that make a good leader or a mature Christian. You tell me which. Now, in this sense, I'm using qualities to describe those things that are elements of our inward character. And I'm using the word traits to describe those things about our words and our behavior as they are perceived by others, who we are and how we're seen. Now, the qualities of a mature Christian or a leader, I'm relying mostly on 1 Timothy 3 and Titus 1, where Paul calls out what are the qualifications for a leader. And I have compressed them as much as I can, but it's a long list. So bear with me. We're going to walk through this very quickly. And I will say that these are things that are like a ruler, a measuring stick. These are a ruler that we hold up to say, how am I doing? They're ideals we aspire to. And what is true of these kinds of ideals is that they are cruel. They are a cruel judge. You might say, how am I doing? But when you hold up the ruler, you find out. How am I doing? So here's the list. Above reproach, being respectable, being in right order with God, with others, and with yourself. 2, demonstrating faithfulness and responsibility, especially with your family. The home is the place of the secret self. The home is where you are who you really are. And when you have children, you learn this because they watch closely and then copy what you do. You will see. Third one is temperate. And I want to take a little time with temperate, being temperate. Because I don't believe it's all that well understood. Being temperate is being clear thinking, being steadfast and self-controlled. It is not about moderation or avoiding excess. A person who is ruled by their passions cannot discern truth. As a temperate person, you are to be a still center in a world that is constantly spinning out of control. And in that stillness, other people find in you guidance and strength and peace. Temperance. Prudent. Prudence is not playing it safe or avoiding risks. Prudence is seeing reality as it really is and acting in the right way at the right time. It brings together wisdom and common sense. Hospitable. True hospitality is about giving yourself away. It is about being generous with your time, with your attention, and with your affection. It's about making a place where others can flourish. It is a place of one of the most important battlefields in the world today, and that is being hospitable is fighting against loneliness and isolation. That is hugely important. That is a place looking for leaders. Able to teach. Able to teach is a way of speaking so that other people want to hear you. Revealing truth. Illuminating what is hidden. It requires depth, experience, and wisdom, not enthusiasm, interestingly enough. I was thinking about this lately because there are a number of people that I look to and listen and are taught by that are not Christians. And they have problems with their ideas and their ideology, and yet, I learned something from them. And I think, I've known people that are good at math and bad at English. And I've known people that were good at English and bad at math. And I can learn math from the people that are good at it. And I can learn English from the people that are good at it. And I can see from people who don't know the goodness of God, yet still find a way to reveal something true or to illuminate something that's hidden. So, able to teach. A leader should be able to teach. Not a drunkard. Okay. It's not just about alcohol. It may not even be about alcohol. A drunkard in this sense is someone who has lost mastery over themselves. They have a lifestyle of allowing their passions or their impulses to take over. Consequence of this, you see, is that it leads to disorder in their family, in their work, in their relationships. And I call this out in particular, especially because if you need help, get help. There are people that will help you, and I'm on your side. I will help you get help, and I will stand with you and support you. Not pugnacious. We all know what pugnacious means, right? Punchy. Do not be pugnacious, not quick-tempered or quarrelsome or aggressive. In the don't be column, it's like where does this kind of aggressiveness come from? It's prideful, it's unstable, and it's ruled by a bad temper. It is insubordinate, a slanderer, and double-tongued. Instead, you should practice to listen for understanding with empathy. You should learn to accept authority and receive correction. Gentle. Gentleness is strength under control, not weakness. It's not passive or fragile or obsequious. Look it up. Don't be that. Or fearful. It is to be in the world with patience and grace and without fear. Gentleness and fearlessness come together. Not greedy for gain. Without distorted cravings. Greedy for gain, we think of people that are hungry for money, but people are hungry for a lot of things that may not be money. Fame, power, lust of the flesh, things like that. We know from Paul and Timothy says love of money is the root of all evil. It's not the money, it's the love. Disordered love turn people into instruments. When you crave and aspire the thing, the people around you become tools or instruments in order for you to get the thing. And their humanity disappears. They become to you tools. They disappear completely. And last, I would say, in the nature of the qualities in ourselves, is devout. And I say that is when what you believe becomes who you are. You are constant in public and in private, at home, at work, and at church, all the same. Now those are qualities of a good leader and a mature Christian, I believe. Traits. Let me talk about traits, the traits of a leader, how you act and are perceived. First on my list is decisive, and it's on my list for a reason. It is one of the top, if not the top, traits of a leader. They are decisive. They make clear decisions on time without vacillating. They are swift and they are clear and they are well timed. A yes, a no, or a later. I don't know if I have time. I love telling this story. I spent many years, continue to spend a lot of time reading about the Civil War. Fascinating. I have a military education, and so when I read about the Civil War, I read about the battles, the flow of battles, the direction of battles, and the leaders in charge of those battles, and how the personalities of those people that were leading there impacted the outcome. And U.S. Grant is a favorite, an interesting character. And there's a story of him at one point, and this was maybe halfway through. If you know the history, it's after the Battle of Chattanooga. And he is back. He spent a lot of time doing administrative things, and a clerk brought into him and said, "Here, this is an order where you're going to spend this much money doing this thing." He goes, "Okay," and he signs it. And the clerk says, "Are you sure you want to do this? I mean, have you thought about this? That's a lot of money. Are you sure you're right?" And he said, "No, I'm not sure I'm right. But I do know that waiting costs money too. And if I'm wrong, then we'll change it. We'll do something different." Being decisive. I'm going to say this is related to the second thing I would say about a leader that is at the top for me, and that is to be creative. To be creative. Using their imagination. Innovating well and often. And I would say this, that A creative leader is situationally aware and adapts appropriately. And that goes to that same story about Grant. Let's be situationally aware about what we're doing. And if it's not the right direction, then it's a perfect time to imagine the right one and go that way instead. Be creative. A leader creates to initiate, organize, and solve problems. The next one, trustworthy. Trustworthy. Persistent, courageous, patient, determined. Trustworthy is worthy of trust. That's complicated. Be worthy of trust. Honest, transparent. You deliver. You keep your promises and your commitments. You get things done. Trustworthy. Optimistic. A leader is optimistic, is seen to be optimistic. A leader is necessarily full of and radiating hope. We're going to go here. We are? I know it. I am an optimist, and I'm excited and I have confidence. I would say related to this, I put it under this category of optimistic, is humorous. A good leader needs to know what's funny, even if it's himself. He needs to know it's funny. He needs to laugh when it's funny, but he's not a comedian. That's the balance. Next one. Desires achievement. Oh, that's a bad word. Somebody who's ambitious, how can that be good? It is a quality of leaders to set goals, to direct projects. A leader has an aim, an ambition, and it's not a dirty word. I want to take a moment here and just kind of talk about the world at large in this little concept here. So let's just say I draw a line, and on this end, I have people that are bad at leadership. And at this end, I have people that are good at leadership. Now I draw another line, and down here are people who completely lack goodness. They are malevolent and evil. And up here, we have people that are good and generous and kind. Well, if you see these 4 boxes now, we all want to go up and be good, and we all want to go to your right and be capable of bringing others with us into this space where life is good. But in this space, I want to acknowledge there are people that are good at leadership that are bad. Their ideas are bad, and they want to carry people off to destruction. A good reason for you to be good at leadership is because you want to put their work at an end. You want to compete with them and win. And that's, I think, a big part of when I talk about you have a responsibility to change the world where you are, is that's why. Somebody has to. Somebody will be good and be good at leadership. A leader demonstrates comfort with authority. He understands and accepts authority, which shows up by following his leaders. He's comfortable with being led. He carries out the directions of his leaders. And he's comfortable acting on his own authority for the position that he has and the work he has to do. I would say this is another kind of a sidebar of talking about leadership, is that it's always been my experience that there are 2 kinds, or you can categorize them in two ways. And one of those I'll call legitimate authority, and another one I'll call charismatic authority. And those are just labels. They're not maybe all that good, but a military experience of mine. I spent my younger years in the Marine Corps, and I had a rank. I had a rank on my collar that said what my legitimate authority was. That was legitimate authority. And based on your rank and your position, you had obligations to carry out. And then there was this other kind of authority that they called charismatic authority. And it doesn't mean I'm charismatic, which I deny, but you have a way of working with people that inspires them to follow you without regard to your office or your rank. And I found in my experience, starting in the military, was that there was a legitimate organization of position and rank, and people did their job. And then there was this other network that existed of people who knew things. I recognized that when I started falling into that category from time to time, that there were certain people who knew things. There were certain people you went to for answers and questions, and certain people come to you for questions and answers, and that was authority as well. Comfortable with authority. Next, self-disciplined. Self-control is a fruit of the Spirit. Bishop Jones talked about fruit of the Spirit. Those are things that God gives you. Run with it. That's a work of Christ in you, to be self-disciplined, to have self-control. But I will tell you, people see it when you work, when they play. That is a sign of self-discipline. Confident. Comfortable in your own uniqueness. Not a rebel. I've always been comfortable with my own confidence. And I don't know why. But there is a passage in Romans that has always spoken to me, 12:3, where it says, "Do not think of yourself more highly than appropriate, but soberly, by the measure of faith God has given you." And so I'm able to look at myself and say, well, I'm not that, and I'm not that. I think I'm smart. I think I'm clever. I think I'm not as smart as some people I've met, and I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable with where I am because I'm not pretending I'm worse than I am, and I'm not pretending I'm greater than I am. Another item, able to delegate. Being able to delegate is like its own specialty. It would need its own series of workshops. But I will tell you, just to sum it up very quickly, it's a matter of being unselfish. Not stifling those around you, but giving opportunities to others to shine and to do good work. And in my case, to do things so I didn't have to. The easiest thing to do in life is the thing someone else has to do. That's always easy. Mature. Be mature, and I like this. Maturity is being emotionally stable, but not a psychopath. Emotionally stable, but not a psychopath. Caring. Caring. To a leader, individual people are genuinely important. And last, I would say in this is to have a balanced family life, finding a proper balance with your work, with church, and with your family. Now, I presented all of those qualities and traits in a notion that it's muddled between whether I'm describing a good leader or a mature Christian, and I hope, since we've gone through that, you can see my point. Because there's no doubt that God has called you into the church to be a Christian, and as a Christian, to be better at being a Christian. It doesn't get you more into heaven, but it gets you to be more of who God created you to be. And there is this tightly coupled nature of those things that are also common to good leaders. It's where you are, it's where you're aimed. The world is in great need of good leaders, and here you are. Now, a couple of more stories to finish up here. The gospel lesson last Sunday was the parable of the Good Samaritan. There's a guy in a ditch, half dead, naked, and broke. He's got nothing. Now, I was like that once. Jesus came along, bound up my wounds, gave me a robe, brought me to a place where I was provided with a future. And in the parable of the Good Samaritan, there's a guy asking him, who is my neighbor? And at the end, you know the story. I'm not going into it because you know it. He said, who is the neighbor? The one who showed mercy. That's right. Now you go and do the same thing. See, out in the world, when you're out from under the covering of what God's providing for you, you're going to find yourself beat up, robbed, and thrown in a ditch half dead. And lots of people are there looking for somebody to pull them out of that ditch. And that's you. And that's what leadership is about. Go and do likewise. I think I've made the point. You've been sent. Go. Last thing, and this is one of my favorite points about leadership, is this idea. It's simple and it's short, but listen to me. Trust me in this one. Leadership is living in the future. Leadership is living in the future. I got so into that, living in the future, that when I would meet with the team, I had a team, I was in technology, and I'd be in a meeting, a staff meeting, talking about the things we were doing, say, we have to get this done this month. And my team, they knew me, transparent, all that. And so they would ask, do you mean this month, or next month, this month? Because it would be like, this is a little early, what are we, like 16th of July, right? But I would be thinking of August. And when I would say this month, I meant August. And they learned to adapt and say, which this month do you mean? You're living in the future. Why? You're living in the future because you have to imagine where you're going, and then you have to invite everybody to go there with you. You have set a goal, an objective, a place where you're going, and everybody has to come there. And you have to see it to invite them. Well, that's a really Christian thing to do, I think. God has called us into a future. What's the world going to be like? Pray to God. He'll tell you. Then go out in the world and make it so. Now, the problem is that the future is unknown, it's uncertain, and it's dangerous. As I said, that's exactly where God has called you. It is the adventure of your life. The adventure of your life. I want to go back to where I began when I described an overview of what a Christian leader is. And I want to go back so you can hear it again in this context, especially of living in the future. Here it is. Christian leaders get the right things done well through the cooperative coordination with others for the long-term benefit of each and all. They exhibit honorable qualities worth emulating, like generous and mature wisdom, expressed with courageous, decisive action, appropriate prioritization, and clear communication. If we are going to live in the future, if we're going to live as leaders, we're going to need to get our character in order. We're going to need to keep our vision clear. We're going to need to drop our baggage and take a leap of faith. Take a leap of faith. And that, for me, concludes what I have to say for today's workshop. I want to thank you again for your time and for your attention. I want to tell you that if you can find the St. Michael's channel on YouTube and look in the playlists, I did a series of talks about leadership. Like, we've been here 45 minutes, and that's like 6-hour-long sessions. So there's a lot more to it that I wanted to share than I had time for today. But I encourage you to take your time and look there if you would like. And you will hear a lot more information about leadership in terms of maybe some of the more practical matters that are involved, communication and planning and projects and stuff like that. And I also want to give you an opportunity. As I said, this is very condensed introduction. Do you have any questions? Anything you'd like to ask me? Yes, sir.
Yeah, the first leadership trait that you mentioned, decisiveness. Now, it might seem like a little, maybe you could probably figure it out, but like, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on like the difference, from your perspective, the difference between decisiveness and being impulsive.
That's excellent, because impulsiveness is bad, decisiveness is good. When you're in a leadership position, like decisiveness is that, let's say, like where I was many times, I'm a leader and there's a group, and when a problem arises and there's a question about what we must do, then what helps everybody is to decide, to aim, and to start moving in that direction. And it's not like there's this, it's not like you're trying to create an urgency there. The urgency exists in the nature of the problem that you're addressing, and that you're responding to that by making a decision. Make a decision. There's a legend, probably a real story about Navy. Of course, I was Marine Corps, involved in the Navy and things, and of the guy who is there's the captain of the ship, and then there's the officer of the deck who's driving the ship. And they're on the bridge, and when you're driving a ship, they have a thing called like constant bearing decreasing range, CBDR. That means you're going to crash. They're in the same place, and you're getting closer. In the end, you're going to touch, and that's a bad thing. And that was happening, and the officer of the deck was not decisive. He was waffling and didn't know what to do. And the captain of the ship, the admiral, jumps off of his chair and says, "I don't care what you do, but do something now." Right? Well, that's the kind of nature of being decisive. And also from that place of being calm and aware and do something. And, you're going to, by experience, gain judgment, and you're going to make more better decisions than bad ones, and the bad ones are educational. And impulsive is like when you keep giving more than one direction at the same time, right? It's like let it roll. If there's not something you have to do, it's not necessary that you change direction all the time. You don't want to be impulsive in that, what am I going to change today? But responding to the need for a decision now. Even if the answer is, we'll worry about that tomorrow. Does that help?
No.
Does that help? Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
You said you need to have a vision as a leader, right? And you need to take people with you.
Mm-hmm.
That vision. But at the same time, you need to empower people to also take
Yeah.
ownership and rise up.
Very true.
How do you manage that tension between making sure people move towards that vision
Yeah.
Take ownership and don't stray from the vision.
Yeah, okay. Good question. Multifaceted answer in this space, and let me think about that with respect to my most recent work environment outside the church was in a technology team that I led, and there was an avalanche of projects every day and decisions to be made and things to do, and so there was prioritization that you would make, and you would set these things, and now we're talking about different people being assigned different tasks. And a really important element in inviting and drawing people in is how you're dealing with the people themselves. Helping them to have assigned to them the things that they can do. If you get assigned something you can't do, it's just heartbreaking. And even if it's in dealing with people and growing people, it's like sometimes you absolutely do want someone to have something that they're not ready, comfortable, they've done it 100, it's new, they're not sure, they're uncertain, but there is this level of companionship that goes with that to bring them along into that. And it is about, you have this vision of where you're going. It's not meaningless, but it's like we have a destination, and let us go there. It'll be better when we're there, and you'll be better when we get there. I had a guy I worked with for many years, and a task came down that was that we'd had 8 months to get this done. And after 6 months, the person that said, I've got it, it's on schedule, just said, nope, not doing it. And I went to this other person this other person's attitude was so different. So, you want me to do this? Yeah, I want you to do this. Okay, because you asked, I will do this. What is it? And I said, I don't know. And so we spent this short amount of time trying to figure it out. It's intense, it's important. We're analyzing, we're doing this stuff. He doesn't know, but he was willing, which is why I needed him to do it. And then after about 2 weeks, he says, okay, I got this, I'm working on it. And then 2 weeks after that, it's like, here it is, this is what I've got, we're done. And he became the hero of the day, like to my boss's boss's boss that cared, right? But I will tell you, one of the things that also happened in that, it's like, how do you bring people with you into that vision? Is that my boss's boss would say, great job. You did a really great job on that thing. He said, I didn't do anything. It's that guy over there. And before we got to the end of it, my boss was calling that guy over there instead of me. And he said, she called me. What am I supposed to do? I said, tell her what she asked. I don't care. Part of that is, the adventure of doing and accomplishing something difficult and hard and valuable and important, and being recognized as that person. And that's a big part about when you imagine that future and you bring people into it. It's like you bring them into it as a hero and it'll work. Does that help?
Yeah.
Does that help? I talk about some of those in that YouTube thing where I had more time. Anybody else? Quick question? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got a question. You talk about leadership being about living in the future, but then in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus also talks about like not worrying about tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. So me and Jesus are at odds here. And that's fair. That's a fair question. We don't worry about tomorrow. And I say leaders live in the future. How are those two things reconciled to each other? Well, it may be mostly involved around your worry and your confidence. My living in the future was confident that good things were going to happen, and we were going to create that space where we had been successful. And I had a habit that I fell into, and this was, it seemed to me to go on for years, that every Monday I would go to the office and everything would be in pieces, chaos and disaster and failure everywhere. And then on Friday, it would all be good, all buttoned up and put back together. What's that, The Incredibles movie, right? We keep saving the world. Can it just stay saved? Every Friday, we would leave and it would be perfect. And Monday would come in and it'd be all in pieces. Then I got to the point where I came in on Monday and it was all in pieces, and I wasn't worried about tomorrow. I wasn't worried at all. But you just did the work and put the parts together. And we imagined what it was going to be. We imagined Friday, and we got there. I don't know, that one's a hard one because, it's like we're not fretting over the future. But in a leadership position, it's like it carries the responsibility of what we're doing with other people. Everybody should be born again, faithful Christians, living out the Christian life well, and life would be perfect. But they're not. And I would like to get my stick out and beat them all into line, but that never works. Never works. But we can be as leaders that enticing, bringing, inviting. It's an invitation, and maybe have a small part of making this world more appropriate. Fair? Is that good?
Yep.
I mean, it's a little. You got to keep digging. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
You mentioned legitimate authority and charismatic authority.
Yes.
So if you have charismatic authority and people follow you, and you have the ability to delegate things to other people, sometimes it gets to your head. And how would you deal with the pride?
Boy, oh boy, that's a good one. Yeah. How? Yes, do. Deal with the pride. That's a good question. I will tell you, one of the things that really helps here is that even if you have that kind of influence, and the influence that I found that I had, like I said, I don't claim to be charismatic, but I worked hard, I knew as much as possible, and I'm not a stupid person, and so I was worth talking to in that sense. And it's kind of like the hard work of being prepared and understanding as fully as you could. And so you became a resource for that. And that, one of the things in that, as you're carrying that out, is never forget you have a boss. Your boss is trying to lead in a certain direction. And if you're leading in a different direction, you're wrong. Generally speaking, right? We don't follow ourselves off into being evil. But in that kind of a work environment, you have a boss. That guy I was telling you about that said, you want me to do this? What I want him to do, he would work hard at. And he was a charismatic leader, and that made all the difference. He didn't suffer from pride. And, I left that position, and that guy's the guy that's doing what I do now. So he grew into that role. So help your boss. Let your boss keep you humble. But don't give him reason. Is that good? Does that help a little bit, maybe? All right, thank you. Anybody else? Questions? Where's Hannah? She's up next. We're getting toward the end here. We're good? Did you have your hand up? You don't have a question? I'm making you have a question. We're all done here. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and your attention.